Why do we fall ill? In this chapter, we are going to discuss about the reasons behind or the reasons which contribute to the diseases and how to treat the diseases and what kind of preventive measures we can follow to control the diseases. All these aspects are studied under this why do we fall ill lesson. So here basically we are dealing with health and diseases in human communities, how they are affected, the health, and how the diseases are to be controlled and what are the various reasons for these diseases. So here in the title itself telling that falling ill means disease. Let us try to find the meaning of a disease. What is a disease? Disease means a kind of disturbance in the functioning of our body. Any disturbance, how the disturbance is caused. Always disturbances are caused by something external. Means your body and your cells, they are all having proper conditions, they are functioning very smoothly. They won't get disturbed unless until something from outside disturbs your system. What is that something? It may be other organism, it may be a chemical, it may be a pollutant, it may be the environmental factor, something else which is outside. It causes a disturbance in your bodies. So the disturbance is called as a disease. When a disturbance is caused to your body, the normal functioning of the body is disturbed, failed. It leads to some kind of effects. So the functioning and life process are affected, disturbed. So thus that condition is called as a disease. So the disturbance in the functioning of your body, even though it is caused at your cellular level, means some of your cells are disturbed, not your whole body. Some cells in your body are disturbed by some external agent, either other organism or any other chemical or physical damage whatsoever. Some cells. If that cells are damaged, it will show the effect on the organ, that particular organ. Say, for example, some malaria organisms enter your body, they reach your liver. So they affect few cells of your liver, but later the organ liver is affected, later your digestive system is affected, later your blood is affected, so by that the whole body is affected. So even though the disturbance is to a specific part of your body, the disturbance will disturb the other organs because in our body all the organs and organ systems are coordinated and controlled and coordinated and they are all working together. Say, for example, your breathing is affected. A person is affected by some disease like asthma or some tuberculosis. The person is coughing and not able to breathe. That means his breathing is disturbed. So the cells in his lungs are disturbed by some microbe. So by that he is not able to breathe properly. So the disturbance is to one part, lungs. If he is not able to breathe properly, he cannot supply oxygen to the other body parts. So what happens? Energy is not produced in the bodies. The heart, it needs oxygen to pump. The brain, it needs oxygen to work, think. So as a deprived condition of oxygen is created due to the poor functioning of the lungs, the person's total health is disturbed, body is disturbed. He is not able to supply oxygen to the body, he falls short of breath, he becomes unconscious. Sometimes it may take to the conditions like coma, and finally it may lead to death. See, so the disease affected to a particular part, it affects that particular part and the total system. And if one system is affected, it will affect other systems also because all the systems, they work in coordination with one another. So thus that is how a disease, it causes a disturbance at a very large scale. Even though the disease is only the infection to some part of our body, that effect will fall on all the other parts overall on the body. That is the aspect here we have to. So let us see the health and its failure. When does health fails? What is the significance of the health, the importance of the health, and what does the term health means? I already told you that health is a proper well-being of an organism, of a human. That means the definition of health, if you see the definition of health, the physical, mental and social well-being of an organism, of an individual, is called health. So the definition given by World Health Organization, it tells three important things: that if you claim someone is healthy, he should be physically, mentally as well as socially healthy. What is physical health? Your body must be in good condition, your hands and legs are working properly and your systems are working properly. You should be able to digest the food which you have eaten properly. You should be breathe properly, and you should be walking, running, doing all your physical activities properly. And you should be using your physical strength to its fullest potential. You should be able to utilize it. So then you are called physically fit. You are asked to run. As a children, you can run, right? And even then, if your teacher asked you to go for a race, some 50-meter race, 30-meter race, somebody says, no, I cannot participate, I cannot run, my legs pain. Some of the students may claim that, no, I cannot participate in the race, I cannot run. Some will be too fat, they are obese, they say I cannot run. Means there is a problem physically. So they are not healthy. Healthy in the sense, in that age group, if everybody is able to run, you also should be able to run. If you are not able to run, if you feel that your strength is not sufficient, you feel so weak, you are not healthy. You should get it checked for doctor, take proper nutritious food, healthy food, green vegetables and such kind of foods to get good stamina and strength of your age group. So that is physical health. But physical health is not only health, they should be mentally also healthy. There is a boy who is very healthy, strong, stout, he can run, he can jump, he can fight, but always fighting and hitting everybody. He is not considering the emotions and feelings of others. So that is also not a healthy state. You should be mentally healthy. If somebody is behaving such in a rude way, hitting everybody, damaging the property of others, and such a rude and rough behavior, disturbing everybody, causing disturbance and nuisance, and he is not bothered how the others are feeling, he is not giving any respect to the people, he is behaving in such a way and his behavior is out of control, it is a behavioral problem, it is a mental problem, mind problem. So it should be set either by counseling, talking to him, telling what is good, what is not bad. Of course, he may be given some medications, but it is not considered as a healthy state. If anybody is having such a behavior which is not socially acceptable behavior, that is also not considered health. So you should be having good physical health, physical body fitness, mind should be steady, and socially you should be good. You should have good interactions, you should have good social relations. You meet somebody with a pleasant smile, you have to wish, and when you are in that state, okay, you are good, you are healthy physically, mentally, socially. But you say, I cannot attend any functions, I am very weak, I am not interested, I don't want to join with the people, I don't want to come into the society, I don't like it, because you have some problem, social problems. So you need to be healthy in all the three aspects, physically, mentally as well as socially, then it is considered as the health. So such kind of health is very, very important for all of us. When you are thinking about your health, you should think that you should maintain all these three. Physically you should be healthy, mentally you should be healthy, and socially you should be healthy. If you are not able to take part any of these things, if you feel that you are missing any of this thing, you can identify that you have some problem in your health, you can get it rectified, corrected, right? So let us go to the next one, personal and community issues. Personal and community issues, the relation between our personal health, community health. What are the relations here? See, somebody thinks that yes, I am taking bath twice a day, I am brushing my teeth twice a day, I use very clean water, I drink very clean filtered boiled water, I eat all healthy vegetables and fruits, and I keep myself so clean. So why I got this disease? So one cannot completely manage himself to be healthy. It depends upon the external conditions also, society also. He is living in a very filthy place, very dirty place, society. He lives in a colony in which the garbage is not cleaned. So everybody throw the garbage on the road, the drainages are not cleared, they overflow. In such a situation he is living. Of course, he puts all the efforts to maintain his personal health and hygiene. He may be affected by the disease because of his community. So the community hygiene, community cleanliness also affects a person's health, individual health. Sometimes natural, which is not under our control, even not under the control of the community, like a cyclone. Suddenly a cyclone hits. So all the water in the drainages overflow. Every water source get polluted. So if we drink such polluted water, diseases are caused. So in this case, you cannot blame anybody. But our health is dependent on two things. One is our personal hygiene. You must be good. Even your society is very good. Your community is very clean, but you are not clean. You are not hygiene. You are eating all roadside foods. You are not taking bath. You are not brushing properly, and you are not following any health habits. You have a very bad lifestyle. No proper timings to eat. No proper nutritious food. You are eating all junk food. You are exposed to various kinds of activities. So definitely you fall ill, even though your community is good. So your personal hygiene is important, community hygiene is also important. So public cleanliness plays a very important role. Public cleanliness. So it is the responsibility of everybody. You cannot blame only the government servants who clean the roads. You have a responsibility. You should not throw the dust on the road. If you throw your garbage bag onto the road, and if you blame those people are not clearing the roads, there is no use. So you must be a part of the public cleanliness, and public cleanliness is very important. The physical environment or the public cleanliness is dependent on the social environment of that community. Social environment decides the public environment, physical environment, social environment. Means it depends upon the society in which you live. Where do the people live? The people live in villages, the people live in towns, right? So it all depends upon the attitude of all the people in the village, the social environment. There is a village called A. In this village, the people in this village, they don't know what is hygiene. All these people, they go for the toilet outside in the open. They do not know the effects caused by doing that activity. All these people, they are habituated to a very bad lifestyle. They consume alcohol, everybody, and it is not a problem for them. It is not considered as a wrong practice. So they all do that. It is a custom. So how the health of this community will be? Very bad. How the environment, physical environment? Because they don't know, they are not aware of the health issues. They are throwing the garbage outside, they are excreting in the open. So definitely they all fall ill. So the social environment, it decides the physical environment. You consider a village called a village B. So in this village, there are some organizations or groups, there are certain people or the leaders. They come and teach all these people what is health, what is nutritious food, why we should not go for toilet in the opens, and why we need to have a closed toilets, and why we should drink a clean water. Everything is explained. So all these people in this society, the physical environment will be very clean. So we see such kind of villages, such kind of towns here and there. Quite often we see that. So the society, how the society is there, the attitude of the people in a society, it will decide the physical environment. If the physical environment is good, then if you take your personal care, the health is maintained in that community. So your personal care is important, personal cleanliness is important, Community cleanliness is also important. If any of one of that is missing, then you may fall ill. So what are the other factors here? The good economic conditions. That is also important. A person wanted to be healthy physically, he wanted to eat all the nutritious food, he wanted to take bath and he wanted to have a good lifestyle, but he needs some money, proper job, employment. If employment is not there, there is no proper job, there is no money to make his living, how can he stay healthy? It is not possible. So good economic conditions are required, means everybody needs a job to do, a good earning to make his living healthy, at least healthy. Of course, it is not luxurious, of course, it is not comfortable, at least he should be healthy. He should get some earning by which he can make his living healthy. So the last one here, social equality and harmony. Why these social aspects are related to science here? Social equality. That means everybody should be treated properly. Otherwise, it will affect the health of the persons which are mistreated. Their mental status may be disturbed. They may behave in a very different way. Their mental health will be disturbed. See that this is very important. Of course, you don't know what kind of social conditions exist at school level, but in your class itself you can notice one thing. Generally in many of the classrooms it happens that you people, some of your friends or you may be involved in teasing some person. You may be choosing a reason to tease the person. You find a person who is very dark complexion, you may tease him. You find a person who is very lean, you may tease him. So this kind of mistreatment based on some kind of taking certain points and mistreating the persons makes the persons feel so bad. Sometimes those persons, their mental health will be disturbed because of such kind of teasing. It builds up a kind of pressure on them. So this mental pressure disturbs their mental health. They may behave so rude and rough. Sometimes they turn so violent and they may attack the people, those who are teasing him. So this kind of incidents takes place. So it is a very bad thing to tease the people, to mistreat the people. Everybody is equal. Everyone, all the humans are equal. Of course, we are different because every human is unique. No person is alike the other person. Even you are a twin brothers or twin sisters, there will be some differences. So no man on this planet is similar. Every person is unique, different. It doesn't mean that they are low or high. It doesn't decide, the complexion does not decide, the height does not decide, the weight does not decide who is high and who is low. Everybody is same and equal. So such kind of equality is maintained, should be maintained in the society also. See, in your classroom, if you do that, you will get adapted to a good attitude, treating everybody equal. So if you grow up and come to the society, you treat everyone with the same thing. But generally in societies, in certain places, what happens, certain people are mistreated. It may disturb their physical health, it may disturb their mental health. Mostly their mental health is disturbed. Certain people, they turn into anti-social elements. So that is also done because of this factor. So for a healthy living, all these are very important issues that ought to be kept in mind, and so by that we should be adapted to this to be healthy in all the aspects, physically, mentally, socially, and we can contribute for a healthy society. Now let us see the distinction between healthy and disease free. So these two conditions. Many people think that if a person is not having any disease, he is healthy. Today I am not having any disease. I am not suffering from fever. I am not suffering from stomachache or motions, so I am disease free. Can I say I am healthy? So both are same. Is the disease free condition and health are same? See, today I am not suffering from anything, but I am not able to perform at the maximum level. What is that? So there is no specific disease for me, but I wanted to take some rest. I am tired. You don't know why you are tired. There is no specific disease. That means your body is not completely able to use its potential at its maximum level. Then you are not healthy. You are healthy means It doesn't mean only disease-free condition. You are healthy means no diseases. At the same time, you should be very actively participating in all the physically, mental, social activities. Then you are healthy. Now, what is the term actually disease defines? Disease is a term, dis is disturbance, ease means comfort. Comfort. So if your comfort is disturbed, you call it as a disease. Dis-ease. Your comfort is disturbed. So you're not comfortable, there is a disturbance, you call it as a disease. Generally, disease in the sense, everybody thinks that disease, somebody, he is having a disease. What is that? Motions, fever. So we last based on the symptoms. But we don't know what is the exact reason of that. Just we see that disease means such kind of things. Any motions or fever or cough, but we consider as a disease. So the difference is that disease free means it is not healthy. When a person is completely, he can use his strength to do an activity, completely he should be active in all the physical, mental and social activities, then you consider he is healthy. You see that, say for example, a musician is there, he plays the flute. He is disease free right now, he is not having any disease. But even then, if he is not able to completely use his potential to play the flute comfortably, there is a discomfort, means he is not in healthy condition. That means he has got a poor health. Poor health. Right? Poor health. What is the difference between health and poor health? Here, there is no specific disease, but the person cannot perform at 100%. He cannot be completely 100% active physically, mentally, socially. So there is a backlog. You call it as a poor health. So this is also a condition like a disease. You cannot say that the person with poor health is a healthy person. So you might be understanding the term poor health. You see different people, you know, teachers, doctors, athletes, right? You say the dancers, they perform beautiful dance stage shows. They perform so many difficult steps. So when they are doing at their maximum, they are in a very real healthy condition. Even though they don't have any disease, if they are not able to perform to the fullest, then they have a poor health. So that is the condition has to be realized. We have taken so many examples, even the teachers, we have taken doctors. So whatsoever profession you take, when even though they are disease free, they don't have any disease, if they are not able to perform to their fullest level, you consider that they have a poor health. You take that to your side. As a student, you are not having any particular disease, but some of you may not be able to concentrate and read properly, study properly, sit properly. You will be having certain problems, I'll let you know. So when you are writing your homework, if you don't have a proper setup to write, or if you are sitting down and write, or if you are writing, even though you are sitting in a comfortable table and writing, after writing sometimes some students will get back pain, complain that I am getting back pain. I am not able to write. If teacher is explaining, many of you may not be able to keep your head straight and listen to the lesson for a long time. So you don't have any disease. In specific, you don't have any disease, but you are not performing the fullest level. You are not able to perform because you are not healthy. If you are not able to concentrate and listen to the teacher for some time, you are not healthy. You can complain, yes, I am not healthy. Get your health corrected. What you should do? You should have proper diet. You should have proper exercise to improve your stamina. Then you can do that. You will be able to do that. You have to realize the unique potential of you. Everybody will be having unique potential. We have to realize, bring out the unique potential to the fullest level. It is possible only when you have real health. Without having the real health, you cannot bring your real true potential out, and you cannot perform to the fullest levels. So even though you don't have any disease like fever or motions or whatsoever, if you are not able to perform in the classroom well, if you are not able to do your works well, homeworks well, If you are not able to read well, then you are not in a true health or a real healthy condition. So that is the real meaning of the health. So disease and its causes. In this particular session, we are going to discuss more deeply about a disease. Already we discussed that disease means dis-ease, that is disturbance of comfort, that is disease. So diseases are caused to, I already told you, diseases are caused to a particular part of our body. Of course, that particular part will disturb the whole system, the systems will create a disturbance in the whole body. But how do we know we are suffering from a disease? First, we will identify the discomfort. We are not as like when we are healthy. There is something wrong. So that, what is that wrong? What happens? The disease means it creates or it causes a change in the functioning or appearance in our body systems or organs, either in functioning or in appearance. It makes these changes are for the worst. Then we get some signs out called as symptoms. When the functioning of one body part is disturbed or when the appearance of body part is disturbed, you find your face is swollen. So early in the morning you woke up and watched your face in mirror, you felt like your eyeballs and your face has got swollen. Means there is a difference in the appearance. Your skin has got so many rashes or boils. You identified boils. So the disease here, it has brought some kind of change in the appearance. The smooth skin of your face has turned marked with so many blisters with water. You will identify a disease. So the disease has brought a change in your appearance and functioning. You are not able to breathe properly. So the functioning of your lungs is disturbed. That is a disease. But how do we know the disease? We know the disease by symptoms. We know we got a disease by the symptoms. A person is having loose motions. The disease is loose motions, diarrhea. But he do not know what is the exact reason. Right? So loose motion was a symptom. Stomach ache. Stomach ache, we are getting stomach ache. So that is the symptom which will tell that there is a problem in the digestive system. So stomach is in the abdominal cavity. Abdominal cavity. So this is the chest cavity where the lungs are there, and this is the abdominal cavity where is your stomach and intestines are located at this point, all liver and pancreas. So you have a stomach ache, that is a symptom. Symptom means a sign of disease. And stomach ache is the symptom you are expressing, you don't know the reason. There may be number of reasons for that. Your stomach ache may be because of indigestion, maybe because of gas formed in the stomach, that is also of course because of indigestion, or there may be problem in your liver, or there may be problem in your intestine, or there may be a problem infection in your other pancreas or gallbladder, stones in the gallbladder, or of course sometimes your stomach ache may not be related to your digestive system also. If you have stones in kidneys also, you will get pain in the lower abdomen. So there are many reasons. How do you find what is the reason? So you have symptom. So here the symptoms, they help to locate the disease, that is done by the doctor, and that process is called as diagnosis. See, the stomachache is a symptom, but here we can find out the reason by looking at the location from where you are getting stomachache, either in the upper abdomen or in the lower abdomen. Again in the lower abdomen, whether you are getting right side or left side, if you are getting in the upper abdomen, right side or left side. So in this way, by finding the location from where is the point, source point of the pain, we can identify. Actually the doctors, they do this in a better way. If you consult a doctor with a complaint that stomach ache, the doctor will ask you certain questions to find out more about the cause of disease. What the doctor asks you, where is that pain? Do you have any other symptoms? Do you have vomiting? Do you have head reeling? So any of sensations he asks for, means along with the stomachache, if you have vomiting sensation, he will identify, yes, he has got some kind of food poisoning, So likewise, so you don't complain any vomiting, I am getting stomach ache. Where is that? On which side you are getting, in which direction you are getting, how you are getting it. So in this way he will do the diagnosis. Moreover, he asks questions, and he sometimes, if he is not able to exactly trace out or point out the root cause of the disease, he may call for some diagnostic test or lab test. So these lab tests, they help in identifying, pinpoint the source of disease. So in this way, the doctors, they will find out the cause of disease to give a proper treatment with the help of symptoms. So whenever we get a disease, we know about the disease by its symptoms. We express the symptoms to the doctor, who is an expert in health issues. He will identify the root cause of disease by asking the symptoms, and at the same time, by taking the help of lab test or diagnostic test, he will find out the root cause of the disease. So here we see the classification of diseases. Primarily the diseases, that they are classified based on the duration. So here is the classification of diseases based on their duration, how much time they will stay in our bodies. The first one is acute diseases. Acute diseases are for a very short duration, but they will be very severe and for a short duration, like cough, seasonal cough and cold. These are because of some kind of infection, might be because of some kind of infections. When there is a seasonal change, when the water is polluted, you may get certain cough and cold for some time, and for some 3 days, 4 days you suffer from the cold, and again you get recovered, and that is called as an acute disease. So acute diseases, they cause some discomfort on a temporary basis. In the previous part we discussed that, in the beginning part we discussed that when particular part of a body is disturbed, that part will disturb the system will disturb the whole body. But in this case there is no that much of time. An acute disease will happen for a short time, say some 3 days to 7 days, 1 week. In this 1 week of time, it cannot disturb your whole body, your whole health. Only that particular part is disturbed, you take some medicines or you take some rest, you get recovered. Overall, your health is not spoiled because of the acute diseases. And there are good chances when you are healthy. Normally when you are healthy, if you get an acute disease, if your immunity is good, you will recover quick without any medicines even. And of course, if you take the medicines in a very short span of time, you get recovered. And because of this acute disease, your other systems are not very much affected. But whereas you see the chronic diseases. So what are the examples of acute diseases? Cold, cough. These are the acute diseases. If you see the chronic diseases are for a very long duration of time. Very long duration. You will be suffering from the disease for a very long duration. You cannot recover from them in a short spans like some 3 to 1 week. It will take 1 month, 2 months. It will take years also, more than 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. You take tuberculosis, certain type of cancers. So you need months and months of treatment, at the same time good food, at the same time good living condition, at the same time good bed rest. If you take everything, then you will be recovered. Moreover, you see, if a person is suffering from a chronic disease, it will affect his whole body. See, for example, a person is suffering from tuberculosis. Tuberculosis affects the lungs. He is getting so much of cough. So what it makes? It creates a discomfort. He falls short of breath, not able to breathe properly. He loses his body weight. He becomes pale, thin. Body weight is lost. So this is a permanent effect on the whole body. His immunity gets spoiled. He become prone to other diseases also when he is not able to. So likewise, the total body is disturbed because of this particular chronic disease. Cancers, they affect other systems. So when there is a chronic disease for a person, this chronic disease, not only that particular system, it will affect the whole body, and it will have long-term effects on other body parts also. it means the chronic diseases will affect the overall health of a person. So the chronic disease leads to poor health conditions. Poor health condition. Already we discussed what is poor health. Of course, the person is not having any particular disease. He will not be able to perform at his fullest level. So that is a poor health. So the chronic diseases leads to poor health. So diagnosis of chronic diseases and treatment of chronic diseases is very important. And for an acute disease, you can easily get recovered by medicines. For chronic disease, not only the medicines help the person. He needs proper rest, nutritious diet, healthy living conditions, proper hygiene and everything is there. Then only he can recover from the disease, chronic disease. Even though he recover from the chronic disease, whatever the loss or damage happened to the whole body and whole health, it needs a lot of time to recover and to become completely get the status of real health. So causes of disease. What are the causes of disease? How a disease is caused? Somebody is complained by some disease. Someone has got cholera. Someone has got diarrhea. So when you tell about that, yes, he might be infected by the organisms, microorganisms which cause the disease. So the microorganisms have entered his body, he got the disease. That is the reason we find out. Means here first we look at the disease causing agent. He got the disease because of so and so microbes. He got the disease because he drank the polluted water, because he ate the roadside food, outside foods which are contaminated. So by that we will finalize that he got the disease. But what are the other factors that cause the disease? Two friends, they have eaten the food on the roadside, food sold. They ate some noodles, a pav bhaji, something they eat on the roadside stall, which is not in a very unhealthy, untidy conditions. The stall is just beside the garbage bin. Both the friends ate the chaat. So in this, both the friends, in two of them, one got loose motions, diarrhea on the next day. The other is okay. So both the friends did not wash their hands before eating. Just when they are going from tuition to home, on the way they ate the chaat. But only one was affected. If you think the reason for the disease is causing agent, exclusively the causing agent, both of them should get the disease. Because both of them ate the food from the same source, the contaminated source. And both of them did not wash their hands. Then what is the difference? Why they did not get? Why the other person didn't get the disease? Only one person got the disease. So let us look at the other factor, that is immunity. So disease is not only caused by the microorganism. Of course, some people, if the microorganisms enter their body also, they are not affected by disease. It depends upon the level of immunity, the natural defense mechanism of our body, the natural strength that we have in our body. It decides whether you get the disease or not. Microbes entered the body of the two friends A and B. He got disease. He is healthy. Microbes entered the body of A and B, but B is having good immunity. His cells kill the microorganisms. He has got good defense mechanism. A is not having good defense mechanisms. His immunity is weak. Microbes, they have grown up and caused the disease for A. So immunity is the second factor which will decide whether a person will be affected by a disease or not. So you'll be wondered. So most of you are washing your hands with a hand sanitizer, hand wash liquid you're using, or either you're using a soap to clean your hands. Sometimes you see some people, they're not washing their hands and eating the food, even though they're not affected at some times, because it depends upon the immunity, the strength in the body. So next thing is nourishment, good nutrition, good, poor. Which nutrition you take, it will decide your immunity. So that the immunity is based on good nourishment. If you are eating a healthy food which contain all the vitamins and minerals and all, your cells will be having enough strength to combat with the microorganisms. You are not eating a good food. Here, good nutrition in the sense not rich food. There are certain foods which are very costly. You order a pizza, you get it for cost of 200, 300. So you are spending 200 to 300 rupees on a pizza, but how nutritious it is? Of course, it is delicious. It may be delicious, but how nutritious it is? It contains lot of maida, the flour which is not at all having the nutrients, very less fiber, fiberless food it is you are eating, which is not at all good for the health. If you buy with some 10 rupees some green leafy vegetable which you get it for some 10 rupees or 5 rupees, either palak or any other green leafy vegetable, and you make a dish out of that, it will be more and more and more nutritious, contains more amount of minerals and vitamins compared to the one which you are eating for a cost of 300 rupees. So here the money is not the matter, the choice matters. So people who are eating the good nutritious food, surely they will have good immunity, they will have good resistance power to the microorganisms, so by that they have a good health. So the nourishment also it decides. But sometimes here the economic condition, so we are not very much specific to this economic condition. As already I told you, there are certain foods which are very cheap, they have good nutrition, but people are not aware of, awareness is lacking in the people, awareness. And sometimes they cannot provide good nutrition to the children. In some cases they cannot provide even the green leafy vegetables also to the certain children in very poor conditions. They will be giving only the rice gruel, starch, or only roti without any vegetables. So it doesn't provide all the nutrients, very poor conditions, and a lack of awareness about the nutrition. Some people think kaju is far better than groundnut. Groundnut is cheap, kaju is better, but nutritionally groundnut is more nutritious than kaju, than cashew nut. So we must aware of that. The proteins present in that groundnut are good, more healthy compared to the cashew nut. So, but people think that cashew is costly, so obviously it is very healthy food. So we cannot eat these nuts, these peanuts, but peanuts, they are healthy. As I told you, green leafy vegetables are very cheap, but they are very nutritious. So this way we must be aware of which foods are good. So good nourishment, it will help to get rid of the diseases. Poor nourishment, lack of nourishment leads to disease. So that is the another cause of disease. And one more thing is genetical. Genetical abnormalities, certain abnormalities in their genes make the people to get prone to many diseases. The genes itself decide that they have a poor immunity. So they are prone to diseases. Sometimes certain diseases are caused by genetical problems. By birth they will have some defects which are caused by genes, which do not, most of the cases which do not have any cure for that. Poverty is another cause of disease. Poverty means less income. When they have less income, they cannot afford what they cannot afford. They cannot afford good food, good lifestyle, good place of living. If they have low income, they cannot afford to take a house in good locality, healthy locality. They take houses in the slums, which are filthy areas, which are unclean, untidy. So poverty is one reason which makes them live in unclean places. They cannot have a good lifestyle, they cannot have good food. So they cannot maintain the hygiene and all the things with their low academic standards, which may leads to diseases. So poverty is also the other reason. So these are all the causes. So disease causing agent, microorganisms is the first thing, immunity, nourishment, lack of nourishment, genetical problems, and poverty. These are the different causes of disease primarily. So we are going to discuss about each of them in detail. So now let us see that the classification of diseases based on the major reasons of the disease, the causes of the disease. The one set is infectious diseases, the diseases that are caused by the infectious agents, mostly the external organisms like microorganisms, so which cause the diseases. So those are all infectious diseases. We study them under the category of infectious diseases. Now let us see the second part of these diseases. It is non-infectious diseases. So infectious diseases are either caused by the microbes like bacteria, viruses, protozoa, fungi. So basically these organisms, they enter our the body and they cause the diseases. We'll discuss about these infectious agents in detail. Now let us look at the non-infectious diseases. The non-infectious diseases are the major diseases of urban people in most of the cases, and many of the chronic diseases are non-infectious diseases by which the people are suffering now. Because if it is an infectious disease, there is a lot of research done and so many medicines are available. A person is suffering from tuberculosis, yes, he is given a dose, a set of treatment, a DOTS treatment. If he has taken for 6 months to 1 year, he get recovered. But whereas the non-infectious diseases which are chronic in condition, they are caused by very bad lifestyle. Because there is a lot of population in our country, especially if you talk about our country India, large population, more percentage of educated people, there is a lot of competition for the jobs, everybody is competitive. So you must be running for your earnings, your job, employment. There are so many pressures. So you should be moving to the places, urban places, cities and towns for your earnings. So the places are overcrowded. So all this brings a kind of special conditions in your lifestyle. You cannot have a very peaceful, calm, healthy lifestyle when you are in an urban area, in a city, for your earning, for your employment, for your job, for your business. One is lifestyle, the other thing is genetic. Here in this case, we cannot help. Genetical disorders. There is some problem in the genes causes diseases like obesity. Some people become obese. That is genetical. Eyesight for the people is also genetical. Color blindness is a condition of genetic condition. Hemophilia. There is no blood clotting in the people. That is a condition. It is genetic. So these are genetic disorders. Those are the genetic disorders. So genetic disorders, there is a reason for genetic disorders. Exactly, we cannot stop the genetic disorders, but incousinaceous marriages means marriage between the cousins, uncles and aunties, sons and blood relatives. If they are married, there will be more problem with these genetic abnormalities. If there are any genetic abnormalities in the families, they surely run to the new generations if such marriages are carried out. So that is the reason, find out there. But the genetic problems are these. So apart from that, lifestyle, see lifestyle, how it is affecting our health. One, in the lifestyle, in the busy lifestyle, people cannot drink proper amount of water in their daily time, required amount of water, because the water is not available everywhere, the pure drinking water. They are busy traveling to their offices, may not find to drink proper amounts of water. So there are certain problems by which they avoid drinking most of the water, and it leads to a condition called as kidney stones. So eating the foods, certain kinds of foods, packed foods, processed foods, fast foods also leads to a condition of this. Second thing, urban living, mostly living in an urban area where there is a lot of pollution, traffic, air pollution, water pollution, especially air pollution. They are exposed to the pollution. Traveling every day in the air pollution, 1 or 2 hours in a heavy traffic, it may lead to certain kind of cancers, headache, many other health problems, blood pressure is increased. So that is caused by that urban living. And busy lifestyle, whether you are living in an urban place or a rural place, if you have a very busy schedule, you have a business where you have to attend 18 to 20 hours a day. So in a busy lifestyle, if you do not spare time for your health, your eating times will be irregular. One day you will be eating for 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Sometimes you may be eating for 7 o'clock or midnight, 1 o'clock. So you don't have a proper time. So when you get time, you are overeating. And when you have not an option to eat, you are leaving it out. It will disturb your total system. So the digestion is based on some kind of enzymes and hormones which work rhythmically. So you need to have a proper discipline in your eating habits. If you do that irregularly, it will disturb your eating part, absorption part, and all the other systems are affected. It may lead to obesity if you are overeating. If you are eating fast foods which are not nutritious, it may lead to obesity. So that kind of problems may be caused. And in the lifestyle, we have to discuss one more thing, that is exercise, improper physical exercise. If you are not having any time to do physical activity, you are sitting on a computer and working for hours and you are eating junk food, then it leads to obesity. So obesity not only change your appearance, there is not only problem with the appearance, the functioning of the body is also disturbed. The heart doesn't work properly, blood vessels get clogged with the fat, so no blood circulation properly and puts pressure on the heart and leads to heart failure. So that may happen. And unhealthy practices. There are certain people, those who are having certain kind of addictions like smoking, chewing tobacco, drinking alcohol. So in addition to all these things, if they go for unhealthy practices, it leads to high BP and heart problems. So let us see, these are the major problems that are found in the urban societies. So this is all because of the lifestyle. So to live healthy, you not only need comforts. Comforts cannot make you live healthy. What makes you live healthy is a good lifestyle. So you must spare your time, you must judiciously use your time properly to maintain a good lifestyle, to maintain proper health, because without health you cannot make any wealth, because health is the main wealth. So that is the aspect which we have discussed in the non-infectious diseases. So now let us come to the infectious part. Infectious diseases are caused by infectious agents like bacteria, viruses, protozoa, fungi. Let us learn about them in detail. So now let us see the infectious diseases, the diseases that are caused by the infectious agents. What are they? Bacteria, viruses, protozoa and fungi. And there are certain kind of worms, parasitic worms or parasites. They also cause the diseases. Now these are all different. They are all classified in different groups depending upon their body features. Here in the field of microbiology, the microbiologist will study the features of each of these organisms individually, because their structure and their functioning and how they cause disease in a particular organism is also different, because their biochemical pathways are different, their structures are different, their cell structures are different. So these are all understood by the microbiologist. Why we need to study about the structural, the construction of these organisms, how their cells are constructed, with what materials they are constructed, and what kind of metabolic reactions, biochemical reactions takes place in bacteria, and what kind of biochemical reactions takes place in virus and protozoa. What is the necessity? Because if we know that, we will find the path how it is working in our body, and so by that we can prevent the working or spreading of these organisms in our body. That means once a person is infected by some microorganism, we can find a medicine, a treatment, so by that we can control these organisms in the body. So that is the reason why the study of these organisms is made. Now let us see what kind of diseases are caused. Bacteria, they cause certain diseases like tuberculosis, that is in simple form TB, cholera, typhoid. So these are all the bacterial diseases. They cause the diseases in the human bodies, and we use certain medicines to cure this bacterial disease, what we call them as antibiotics. So these antibiotics are the medicines, they work on the bacteria. So when a medicine is prepared by a pharmacist, he should see that that chemical will spoil only the bacteria, not our own cells. If you take a medicine, if it kills our cells as well as bacteria, there is no use. The bacteria is died, at the same time the person also will die. So the medicine which we consume, it should not affect our cells, it should affect only the cells of bacteria. That means we should find out the similarities and differences between the bacteria and human cell. So we have to find a medicine which will not affect the human cell, which only affect the bacterial cell, So by that the bacteria is killed. Now let us see viruses, what kind of diseases they cause. They cause the diseases like cold, that is the flu, and the virus it causes HIV, hepatitis, right? Smallpox, polio. These are all the various diseases that are caused by viruses. Protozoans, they cause different diseases like elephantiasis, malaria. Malaria is also caused by a protozoa. Fungi, they cause ringworm, and skin diseases like candidiasis. And worms, they cause roundworm infection. They cause stomachache. They grow these worms. These worms, they grow in the stomach of small children. Infection. So let us see different kinds of diseases. A few examples we discussed here. TB, cholera, typhoid, and if you see the viruses, cold, flu, HIV, hepatitis, smallpox, protozoa, elephantiasis, malaria, ringworm, candidiasis, and worms, roundworm. So by that, by knowing the physical features, their structure, we can design the medicines. As I told you, the antibiotics are specially designed to control the bacteria. So the scientists, they have studied that the bacteria, they have a cell wall. So when a bacteria enters in our body, when it enters in a small quantity. For example, you are eating a sweet. One fly came and fallen on that sweet and it went off. So when the fly landed on your sweet, a few bacteria which it was carrying fell on your sweet. So it may be in number, very less number, some 20 microorganisms. They fell on your sweet, you ate. So after you eat them, these organisms, they escaped your stomach mechanisms. Somehow they entered your body. Somehow they entered your systems. There they will find proper conditions. This 20 will become 40, 40 will become 80, 80 to 160, like that thousands and thousands and in millions it will grow. Here the growth, it happens because of division of the cell. One bacteria divides into two. Means cell division takes place. For cell division, new cells are to be formed. For new cell formation, new cell wall has to be formed. So here there is an antibiotic called penicillin, which was discovered by Alexander Fleming. So this penicillin, it will prevent the formation of cell walls. If penicillin is given, it will prevent the formation of cell walls. So bacteria cannot multiply, they cannot grow. So whatever is entered, it will grow in number. When penicillin is used, so the new bacteria cannot grow and the old bacteria, it lives for some time and it dies. So the person is recovered from the disease. And most importantly, different members of a group will have similar structure. All the bacteria will have similar mechanism of cell division, and all the bacteria, the members of this bacteria will have the same kind of cell wall formation. Their biochemical reactions are also similar. So if one medicine is identified for one bacteria, it can use it for many of the bacteria. The same antibiotic can be used for number of bacterial infections. So one antibiotic can be used for different kind of bacterial infections, but antibiotic, we cannot use it for viral infections because that antibiotic, it doesn't work for virus. Bacteria, they do not enter your cells, they do not use your cell mechanisms. Bacteria, they have their own cell and own mechanisms. So if we study the mechanisms, we can design the medicines which can block their biochemical reactions and we can stop their growth. But virus is different. Virus, it do not have any mechanisms on its own. Virus, whenever it enters our cell, it uses our cell apparatus for its activity. If you design any medicine, it will spoil our cell. So for viral diseases, to control the viral diseases, there are no exact or specific medicines. Only thing is your body must have the own immunity to recover from a viral disease. So viral diseases, there is no treatment. Only thing is, the best thing is prevention. After getting the disease, cure is very difficult in viral diseases. Of course, If you get a cold with virus, if you consult a doctor, he will give some medicines. These medicines are to reduce the effect. If you get a cold by virus, you will get other symptoms also, headache and other symptoms, other pains. So the doctor, you may get viral bacterial infection also along with viral infection. So the doctor give medicines to control the bacterial infection, to reduce the pain, painkillers he may give, but he cannot exactly give a medicine which can control the virus, because viruses are not directly controlled by medicines, because they do not have any of their own mechanisms. So likewise, the medicines are designed for each group separately by knowing their mechanisms, and the medicine can be used for any of the member of that group. In most of the cases it will work. So the medicine that is designed for a particular bacteria can be used for any other bacteria, because most of the bacteria, all the members of a group will have similar features, similar mechanisms. So that is the basis for designing the medicines or drugs to control these diseases. So the bacterial diseases, they can be controlled by the usage of antibiotics. So now let us see the means of spread. The infectious diseases that spread from one person to another person are called as communicable diseases. So why they are called as communicable diseases? Because by the help of certain agents, they spread from one person to another person, or from that source point to the person, from where the disease is located in the dirty place, in the garbage or in the sewage, from there to the person, it will spread. So they are called as communicable diseases. First thing, the first agent we are looking at is the air. Air transmits so many diseases. How? Because many of these organisms, the organisms are very small and tiny in size. So these tiny organisms are easily carried away by the air. So in unfavorable conditions, the microorganisms, they become like small eggs called as spores. So these spores are very light, they are easily carried by air. So by that, they are carried from one place to another place. The air blows over a dirty place. So from there, these spores are carried to the food which is uncovered. It may fall in the food. If people eat the food, they get affected. And by the air, droplets of infected person. A person is suffering from TB. If a person who is suffering from TB, he comes and sits beside you and coughs. Whenever he coughs, the spit, it becomes into droplets of different sizes. When he is coughing, the bigger droplets of heavy size fall nearby on the ground. Once they fall on the ground, after some time they become dry, they become spores, they are carried by wind. That is one way of spreading. Second thing, when he is coughing, the droplets which are of very small size, they may be carried by the wind. They may fall on somebody's face, and it may fall on some food items or any other items which are consumed. So by that, in such a way, contamination takes place. Some droplets are very, very fine and they mix with the air like a mist, and those are also carried. So it depends upon the crowded place. You have gone to a crowded bus, there will be 100 members, 70 members, 60 members in a small bus which is crowded. So in this crowded condition, somebody is coughing. So the spit may be easily spread in the form of droplets. So it depends upon in how much crowded conditions you are living. Right. So that is the air, it carries the disease causing organisms either in the form of droplets or in the form of spores which are easily spread. So here how can you prevent that there? You know that the air carries, so whenever somebody is coughing, at least you can cover your mouth and nose with the help of a handkerchief. So by that you can prevent the entry of organisms. But the person who is really coughing, who is suffering from cold and cough, if you are suffering from cold and cough, you please maintain a handkerchief while you are coughing. So by that you are not spreading the disease to the community. That is your basic responsibility, right? And at the same time, when somebody is doing and he is not aware of how the disease is spreading, if you are not in a position to convince him or tell him to cover, at least you can cover your mouth and nose, so by that you can prevent the entry of these disease causing germs to your body. The second thing is by water. Water is very essential, primary thing which we consume every day. We need to drink a lot of water, but make sure that the water you drink is healthy and pure and clean. So the water which we are drinking, there are many sources which pollute the water. The water is polluted when the outside contaminants enter into the water, the pollutants enter into the water. So the excreta, human feces enter into the water. So if that water is consumed, it leads to diseases. So diseases like cholera are spread by the water pollution. So in villages, in rural areas, certain places, they do not have a provision of drinking water facility. There is a water source. From that water source, it is an open tank. It is an open reservoir from where they collect the water. But the open tank and open well is used for other activities like washing animals, washing clothes and all. So all the sewage enters the water and that water is consumed, which leads to diseases like cholera, typhoid. These are all caused by this contaminated water. And even though you are having a good supply of drinking water and you are filtering your water and drinking, even then you may be prone to diseases caused by water pollution. Why? How? Because in house you are drinking pure filtered water, boiled water, and you are buying some food outside. You don't know with which water the food is made. They may use unfiltered water, unclean water, so there may be the source of pollution or contamination. And you may be buying milk from a vendor. The vendor might mix water which is unclean, unfiltered in the milk. So through that milk the water enters your body. So there are so many chances of this water contamination and we should be aware of this contamination. And the third means of spread is sexual contact. The persons, those who are having some kind of diseases in their body, those germs, they spread to the another person when they come in sexual contact. Diseases like HIV and syphilis and other sexually transmitted diseases like gonorrhea, syphilis and HIV, AIDS. These diseases are spread by sexual contact and blood contact. If the blood of the person is transfused to a healthy person, then through the blood also the disease is spread. Sexual contact and blood transfusion, using the needles which are used for the person who is affected by HIV, if the same needle is used to a healthy person, the disease is transmitted. The blades and razors which are used to cut the HIV persons, the same blades or needles are used there is a chance of spread. So HIV, syphilis and other AIDS are spread by the sexual contact. So that is the another means of spread. And that finally we come to that animals are also responsible in spreading diseases, especially cockroaches. You see the cockroaches, flies, house flies, mosquitoes. You know all this because you are watching advertisements in TV. Some brand will advertise, use our liquid to kill the mosquitoes because they cause diseases. Use our spray, use our repellers to control the mosquitoes. So this way, all these are causing the disease, they are spreading the disease causing organisms. Cockroaches, they move everywhere, they move in the toilets, and from there they carry the disease causing organisms to the other utensils. They fly onto the utensils and other things which we use, they spread the diseases. House flies, mosquitoes, they carry the disease causing organisms in their body, and when they bite us, they spread the disease caused by mosquito is malaria, dengue, encephalitis, Japanese encephalitis. So like that, so many diseases are spread by this agent. So these are the various means of spreading of these diseases which are called as communicable diseases. Now let us look at the organ specific and tissue specific manifestations of disease. Earlier we discussed that certain microorganisms, they cause the disease only at a particular part of our body, that is organ specific, or not even the part, only a particular tissue of that part. So the diseases which are affecting a particular tissue or an organ, they show specific manifestation. Let us see. In many of the diseases, the point of entry and place of infection are different. See, for example, a mosquito, it bites on your hand, means the microorganisms which cause the disease malaria entering through your hand. But on the hand, on the surface of the hand, you are not getting any infection. Or in the hand muscle, you are not getting any infection. Malaria organisms are infecting your liver. So the place of entry, the point of entry and place of infection are different. See, here we have certain diseases. Taking as an example, we can discuss the first one, TB. TB, you see the place of entry, how the TB germs are entering. In the previous part we discussed it there. A person who is suffering from TB, if he coughs or sneezes, the droplets of his spit, they enter into the air and they may enter the body of other person. If you breathe the droplets, then it is infected. So the place of entry may be mouth or nose. Mouth or nose. Place of infection, where is this TB is affecting? Even though these organisms are entering your mouth or nose, they are not settling in the mouth or nose, they are reaching the lungs. They are reaching the lungs. TB is affecting the lungs. So what are the cells, tissue present in the lungs is infected by TB? What are the symptoms? So once a particular organ or tissue is affected, infected, when the bacteria, they grow in large number, so the infection information is known to us by symptom. The person starts cough. He feels that it is a normal cough and he will go to the doctor, take normal tablets, cough tablets. For first week, the cough is not reduced. The second week, the cough is not reduced. The third week, the cough is not reduced. The doctor will suspect, yes, 3 weeks you are suffering from cough, even though I give antibiotics, your cough is not reduced. So it is not a normal infection. You must get diagnosed by the lab test whether you have any severe infection. Then the doctor will find out, yes, you have TB. So how the doctor has come to know? By the symptoms the person gives. The person gives the symptoms, I have severe cough and I am getting blood in my spit. So when the doctor finds the symptom blood in the spit, he suspects it is TB and gets it tested with the help of the symptoms. So moreover, and the immune response, when there is a kind of infection in a particular organ, in the organ immune response also will be there. So when there is an infection in your nose, you will get some kind of mucus coming out of your nose. Why the mucus is coming? And you will find all your mucous membranes are inflamed, swollen, inflammation. So inflammation is an immune response. Inflammation. So the membranes inside your lungs are showing that inflammation as an immune response, your body immune response. Symptoms are like cough and blood in spit. So this is all about a disease, TB. So from this what you are learning, the point of entry and place of infection are different. And when a particular organ or tissue is affected, some symptoms are shown. And in that particular organ, there will be some natural immune response. If a particular part is infected, in that part, specific immune response will be there in the form of inflammation. That part will get swollen. Inflammation takes place in that part. Now let us see that second one, malaria. Place of infection, any part on the body surface. Body surface. Place of infection is liver and blood. Blood is spoiled. Blood cells are destroyed in large number. It settles in the liver, but it spoils the blood cells. Your blood cells are spoiled. So what are the symptoms? Fever, weakness, loss of weight and all this. So here also there will be some kind of immune responses to the malaria. So encephalitis, Japanese encephalitis, place of entry. This is by mosquito bite, body surface, as like malaria. Where it settles? It settles in your brain. Brain, fever is the symptoms. You see headache. And the immune response, inflammation of brain, membranes, meningitis, encephalitis, the brain membranes, they're inflamed. So these are the Place of infection, the point of entry body surface, a mosquito bite, and the place where the infection takes place is brain. There you find some symptoms like fever, headache and all symptoms, and there you find some kind of immune response. And we see the jaundice, that is through mouth. Contaminated water may cause the jaundice, contaminated food causes the jaundice, it affects the liver, and the symptoms are stomach ache and turning yellow, body turns yellow, eyes and the nails, eyeballs turn yellow, and inflammation of liver. These are all observed. So organ specific and tissue specific manifestations, they are specific to that particular organ, but in some cases some diseases are not organ specific and tissue specific. What is that? HIV. HIV infection, if HIV infection takes place to a person, in a person, so actually the HIV virus, it will attack the immune system of the person. Especially it will attack the lymph nodes of the person. Lymphatic system is another kind of system present in our body along with circulatory system. We have lymph nodes present in our tonsils, in our neck region and different parts of the body. Those lymph nodes are affected. But here how the manifestations are there, in all these cases which part is affected, from that part the symptoms and manifestations are shown from that part. But whereas in cases like HIV, when the immune system of a person is damaged, he is prone to almost all the diseases. Means if any bacteria enters into his body and causes cholera, his own immune mechanism cannot produce any reaction to that, response to that. So the cholera, it becomes so severe. Whatsoever infection he gets, that infection, it flares up and becomes uncontrolled and may lead to death. So no kind of infection is controlled and no immunity is against that particular disease. Such a condition, there the manifestation is not organ specific, overall body is affected in cases like HIV. So now let us see the principles of treatment. So disease has happened, somebody is infected by a disease, he is suffering. So he needs some treatment to get rid of the disease. So what are the approaches? When a person is suffering from a disease, he will approach a physician to diagnose what disease it is, and so by that he will take the treatment to get it cured. So the basic thing that should be done is you need to consult a trained physician who can completely cure your disease. First, he should properly diagnose your disease. Say for example, here the treatment, it has got two different kinds of treatment. One is symptom directed treatment, killing the real microbe is the second one. Symptom directed treatment, for example, you are having loose motions. So you did not consulted a physician, you have gone to a medical shop and asked the medical shop person that I am having loose motions. He will not ask you any other questions, means he will not diagnose your disease. Only he will give a medicine to stop your symptom. You go to a medical shop and there you complain, I am getting headache. So he will give a headache tablet, a painkiller. So there the symptom directed, the medicines to reduce or stop the symptom. They do not diagnose. You are telling stomach ache, they will give a medicine which can stop the, it's a painkiller which will not make you know the pain, that's all. So real cause is not found out. So temporarily it will give you a relief for some time, later you will find the stomach ache again, then you will consult a physician, he will do a test and find out you are having some problem with your liver. Or you may be having some problem with your intestines, or what, the root cause he will find out, or you have got some food poisoning, infection likewise. So in symptom directed treatment, the medicines will reduce the effect of the symptom, the particular pain, but it is not the permanent treatment. So for a permanent treatment, the disease has to be completely diagnosed. When the diagnosis is done, then they will find out the real cause of the disease and they will start the treatment. So that is killing the real microbe. The first phase is diagnosis. Diagnosis, it will be done by the doctor examination, personal examination. The doctor will do the personal examination. He will ask the patient to sleep on a bed. He will touch the body part and he will see the tenderness. If you are complaining stomachache, he will press on your stomach and ask on which side it is coming, how severe it is coming. Likewise, he will do the personal examination, and if he is not able to make out what the real cause, he will ask for a lab test. So after the lab test, he will find the root cause of the disease, real cause of the disease, and on basing the real cause, he will prescribe the medicines. If the disease is caused by bacteria, you know, we already discussed that there are antibiotics. So these organisms like bacteria, virus, protozoa, they have got different mechanisms. For each group, there are certain specific medicines are developed. For bacterial infections, antibiotics, the doctor will prescribe the antibiotics. If you take the antibiotics as prescribed in the prescription and you take proper rest, you get relieved from the disease. That is the real treatment. So, and even the dosage, what dosage he gives, you should take the complete dose. He will ask you to use the medicines for 5 days or 10 days. If you use for first 2 or 3 days, you feel like your disease is reduced. Your disease has gone and you stop using the medicine, again the disease may come. Means he will exactly estimate how much of dosage is required to completely cure. When the number of microbes is very large, you are suffering from the symptoms. Medicines are given. The number of microbes is not reduced but not completely gone. So you're feeling better, you stop using medicine. But again these microbes grow in number. There is a chance. So when a doctor has prescribed a course, we have to follow the course and use for complete treatment. Microbes are to be completely destroyed. So by that you will not get it again. Recurrence will be less. The chances of recurrence will be less. So that is the permanent treatment, which is done by a proper method, proper diagnosis by personal examination, lab test and real cause. In case of a bacterial infection, antibiotics are available, but in case of a viral diseases like HIV and other viral infections, viral fevers, it is very difficult. But anyway, nowadays with the help of new technologies and advancement, there are certain drugs which can control the viral infections also, which are using in the treatment of HIV also. They are using the drugs which control the effect of the virus, right? So even the protozoans like malaria, there is a specific medicine to control the malaria. Once the doctor has diagnosed the disease, whether it is malaria or typhoid, say for example, generally the people who are suffering from fever for a long time, 15 days, 20 days, then they will be checked for whether they have a malaria, they have a typhoid or they have a dengue fever whatsoever. Once the reason is known, the particular medicines are used for the complete treatment. So these are the two basic principles of treatment. One is symptom directed, basing on the symptom, giving medicines and treating that. The other thing is complete examination, finding the root cause and prescribing the medicines to completely cure the disease. Now let us see the principles of prevention. So when we are talking about diseases, the most two important things we discuss is treatment, prevention. So which one is better? When a person is affected by a disease, you cannot prevent it. Only thing you can do is that treatment. Of course, you treat the person. If he is recovered from the disease, there will be some kind of damage or disturbance. So prevention is far better than treatment, right? So prevention has to be done before the disease occurs. Treatment is the thing which we do after the person is affected. Now let us talk about few principles of prevention. Now we know that prevention is better. Why it is better? Because the prevention, it can avoid all these three. What it can avoid? If the damage is happened, if the disease is happened, there will be a damage to the systems on a permanent basis. Sometimes when a person is infected by some acute disease, even though he is recovered from the disease, certain organs or certain functions will be permanently damaged for a lifetime. So the damage happened to the body systems needs very long time to recover. So that is one damage. The second thing is, when a person is affected by a disease, he need to take bed rest. So he has to stop going to the school, he will lose his lessons. If he is an employee, he has to stop going to office, he will lose his job and he has to take rest. And if he is a businessman, he loses his business, he gets loss. So all these are the loss if he is diseased. So that is the second problem. The third one is, he will become a source of infection. A person who has got a disease, he is the source of infection, means the disease spreads from this person to another person. So these are the three major things that are concerned with it, having a disease. So after getting the disease, even though we have medicines and we can recover, these problems will happen. So that is the reason the prevention is better than cure. Now let us see the basic principles of prevention. Prevention, it has three principles. In that, two are general, in common, and here it is specific one. What are these general principles? The basic principle is public hygiene. It is very, very important, which is the main cause for the spread of diseases. You see now the community cleanliness. Everybody must get the basic amenities like proper drinking water. This is pure, uncontaminated drinking water. It is the responsibility of the governments to supply the uncontaminated drinking water, and even our responsibility to properly store the water, see that it is not contaminated. We filter the water or we boil the water. It is the responsibility of both public and government to see that we drink good water. Clean air means the garbage waste, it should be properly disposed, and food whatever is consumed, it should be properly covered, and all that kind of care has to be taken. That is impersonal, in community wise. So proper water, clean air, and clean food, uncontaminated food. The foods which are sold outside, there are a lot of chances for contamination, which are uncovered for a very long time. So easily they get contaminated, and consuming that contaminated food leads to disease. So if you want the prevention, please do not consume the uncovered food. You can consume the food only when you ensure that the food is prepared in hygienic conditions and properly stored or preserved. Then only we can consume that food. So otherwise it leads to diseases. And already we discussed, when we go to a crowded place in your classroom, somebody has got cough or cold. Who are closely sitting to the person, definitely they will get. Because the droplets, they carry the disease causing organisms. The spreading of this disease takes place in such a way. So that should be avoided. And one more aspect, already we discussed that even though a few people are exposed to this unhygienic condition, unhygienic water, unhygienic food, unhygienic air, some of them are not getting the disease, some of them are getting the disease. So what is the second key principle to this prevention is proper nutrition. People must have good immunity. Even though they are exposed to the microorganisms, even though the microorganisms enter our body must have the resistance capacity. That means the body's natural defense mechanisms must be strong enough to combat the disease causing organisms. If it's so, then we can prevent the disease. So everybody must be having proper nutrition, in the sense good food, which means the food is full of nutrients, the food which contain the elements that help in proper digestion, proper absorption, proper assimilation, and proper body building. Such kind of food has to be taken. So proper nutrition, it gives good immunity. It gives good immunity. Who is having the good immunity? If that person is exposed to any kind of these unhygienic conditions also, he is not affected by the disease. Natural prevention mechanism present in the bodies. Now let us talk about the specific one. Of course, there are so many reasons why the people are not having proper nutrition and good immunity. Depends upon the economic factors, poor poverty, poor living standards. So in such cases, every newborn child is given some vaccines. You see that when a baby is born, immediately vaccine is given. At 1.5 month vaccine is given, 3 months vaccine is given, 6 months vaccine is given, 1 year vaccine is given. So 18 months vaccine is given. Likewise, vaccines are being given to the child till he approaches 5 years. And every year you see that government conducts a OPV vaccine program, oral polio vaccine program, pulse polio. So there that the children are called, children below 5 years are given oral polio drops to eradicate the disease, to prevent the disease polio. So nowadays we have not heard of diseases like smallpox and chickenpox. Once there were very big problems. people who were suffering with the problems, they were not even aided or supported or served by other peoples, because they were in the fear of treating these chickenpox people, they also get infected. But now here the immunization, the mechanism of immunization, artificially it is created in our bodies with the help of vaccines by the process of vaccination. So here vaccination, how it works, it fools the immune system in developing a memory for a particular infection by putting something that mimics the microbes we want to vaccinate against the body. So a vaccine will have something which will mimic a microbe. Generally vaccines are made by attenuated microbes. So they will give weak microbes into our body. Our body natural defense mechanism will activate. It will get trained how to fight. It will learn the mechanism how to fight the infection with the microbes. And the microbes are very weak and they will definitely will not cause a disease. They are very weak. So this defense mechanism get trained and prepared. When really the microbe enters our body, our mechanisms, the defense mechanisms will surely fight and they will prevent the disease. So this is the principle by which this immunization works and which is specific. So immunization, now the immunization is giving protection to the children in many of the diseases like diphtheria, whooping cough, tuberculosis, polio, smallpox, chickenpox, measles, mumps. For all these diseases vaccines are available. The vaccines are being given. Nowadays they are finding vaccines for so many other diseases also, like hepatitis. So there is a vaccine for hepatitis A which is given to the children. But naturally also we will develop immunity. That means once we will get the disease, then our body will naturally learn how to fight against the disease. Then next time onwards when the microbe comes, we are not infected again and again. You see, smallpox, once you are infected means you will not infect again, because the body will have the natural defense mechanisms. So however, if we take immunization, vaccines or not whatsoever, here you see that good lifestyle and proper nutrition will make you strong and strengthy, and so that it prevents the disease in a natural way. So by listening to this lesson, why do we fall ill, you have come to know all the reasons why do you fall ill. So you can make right decision. I think you all have come for a conclusion that understanding that there are certain things by following which we can stay healthy. That is, one thing, maintaining proper hygiene, personal hygiene, community hygiene, and a good lifestyle, developing good lifestyle habits, proper exercise, and more importantly the nutritious food. So by this, in whatsoever environment you are living up, because you cannot easily change your environment or living conditions, it depends upon your economical status and all the other social issues. You cannot change all the social issues immediately, but at least if you do this, you can have a better prevention from the diseases.